Okay, I'd like to call the Finance Committee to order again. Number one, we have assignment for request for council action. We have several for the finance. We have 1863, amending codified ordinance 14101, Board of Control. 1864, purchase of 2018 Ford F-150 for the fire department. 1865, expenditure over $15,000, Mercedes Textiles Fire Department. 1866, capital bill request fiscal year 2019 and 20. 1867, bids for 2018 concrete street repair. 1868, bids for 2018 concrete pavement joint sealing. 1869, aesthetic enhancements for South Elmwood Bridge. 1870, amendment number 10 for Delta Airport Consultants North-South Taxiway. 1871, release and discharge of Medina Shopping Center easement. 1872, amend section 505071, cruelty to companion animals. 1874, resolution to support fire district feasibility study. And for special legislation, we have one 1873, comprehensive plan update. 1857, number 2, review modification to job description for the ED marketing position. This came back from us, as you recall, last finance meeting, we talked about it, it passed out of finance, but something has changed. There's been a, from our outside legal counsel, I guess, the job description designation has changed a little bit. And I think, if I'm correct, he revised the description for economic development and marketing associates. The title has changed now to be an assistant director of economic development and marketing. There's a few other changes that were loaded in your packet in red, and this is something that I figured it's a big enough change to come back so everybody's aware of it and see what people think. So, Mayor?
So we asked Todd Hunt to take a look at this. We had sent it to him, but we didn't get his comments ahead of time. But the fact that we want to make it exempt position where it's salary, it's one thing for the city to desire that, but then that throws us into, it's probably not the best word though, but we have to comply with the FLSA, and to do that, it has to be a managerial position with some oversight without direct supervision, and it also has to have the title to show that. So these were his recommendations. He had somebody else there on the phone with him in the conference call whose sole job or their responsibility is compliance with the FLSA rules, and these were their recommendations.
Okay, questions? Anybody have any? Nope. Nope. I'm okay with it. Any questions? You okay?
Well, I don't know if I'm okay with, I mean, I voted no last time, so I guess the thing that just surprised me as I looked at this, I think we started as an intern in this spot, and then it went to administrative assistant that was paid more than any other administrative assistant at an hourly rate with a higher rate.
No, one time
It's
it
not
went to
administrative assistant.
parking or part-time marketing associate.
Okay.
Yeah, not administrative assistant.
And then I know we went from part-time to full-time, and then now it's the assistant director. It seems like it's gone pretty quickly here in a short period of time. And
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, and we haven't changed the finance structure or anything. We're not changing the monetary amount. But I guess what you have to keep in mind, and this transition has caused us a lot of aggravations, is when we had to cut everybody back to 29 hours a week. There are some things that we work hard, or we brought in extra people, more people, and we continue to be able to get the job done. But with a department that's this small, with the director, the administrative assistant is doing more of the grants and planning and zoning packets, that for the amount of development and economic activity that we're seeing, we just can't keep doing that at 29 hours a week. If I could increase it from 29 to 35 or 37 or something, then we could probably get by with that, but it's either 29 or 40. So, we're painted into a corner to keep things going.
I guess I just struggle with, I give the greatest example is, in my mind, is that we keep adding trees every year, and we have a forestry department that's 1.5. I know they could use another full-time person. I guess I would just rather look at it as a whole of all the departments that would like to put in for a full-time position and kind of weigh it out, at least give everybody a chance to express to council during the budgeting process of why every department has a need for additional help. I get it that there's extra money for this from a different source, an independent source, but I guess I just feel badly when I have so many people say to me, gosh, our department could really use some more help too, that 29-hour rule has really hit everybody hard.
Well, understood, and respectfully, Jim, if we were asking council for money versus taking it within the economic development that we could use for any economic development purpose, that's the reason the money was given to her, and she has counseled with me, and I have agreed with her that this need is important enough to use for this purpose versus some incentive or some study or some other thing within that department. Because we just can't keep the volume of work that we have right now that's going. With the trees, we are subcontracting some of the work that we can't handle with the 1.5 guys inside, more than we've probably done so before, just because sometimes it's cheaper and is done more expeditiously by using a contractor with more equipment, more people, and that's how we've sorted through that aspect.
I took a harder look at this after we voted for this last week, and, with all due respect, because I know exactly what you're saying, but not to mimic what Jim said, but that was pretty much what I brought up at the last meeting, was that we have not looked at, because it's not budgeting time, I guess, we have not looked at where everybody in every department stands with need, and need then in the equation of need service. What you said last time and what you just said now, I mean, it does make a lot of sense. But I have, in looking at the departments as a whole since the last meeting, it seems to me that there is a need in other departments too that maybe may transcend this need right now. When I look at the list that we had last time, which is the essential job functions of that this new position will have, and then to me it was somewhat of a red flag when we suddenly had a change in title. And I know we say, well, that doesn't make any difference because it's basically the same thing, but it also is, we don't have a deputy service director, and we don't have a deputy building inspector, and we have a planning director that's pretty much a single guy. We don't have a deputy planning director. We don't seem to have a deputy anything else. And we have other departments with part-time people because we're still restricted to the 29 hours. And it seems like it would be more comfortable, I think, I don't know if for everybody else on council, but if we took a look at this in the total, as we look at the budgets and saw what every other department has a need for. And I don't know that that's.
Well, I kind of agree with what you're saying, but I guess if the other departments wanted additional people that had to come out of the general fund, I'd vote no, because we don't have the money. And I know this is unique, and this is where I guess differ from most of you here, is that I've always been an advocate of, if you save your money, you can have what you want. And the Economic Development Department saved this money through the JED, which, whether I agree with it or not, it's the economic development's money, and if they think it's just important to do it, because I'm not a day-to-day kind of guy to operate a department like that, well, if you run out of money, you're not getting any more, so if you run out of your JED money, she has to get fired. I don't have a problem with that, because that's what I think would happen. I wouldn't find other money to try to keep the job. The person would have to get fired.
John, can't you, that JED money could be used someplace else.
Could be used for anywhere else you wanted to, but I think it should be used for economic development personally, but that's just my opinion.
But when you talk economic development, there could be other areas in the economic development realm that money could
Yes,
go towards.
but again, I'm not
So
the economic development
instead of going
director,
personnel,
so.
maybe it's going towards a specific project or an improvement in the industrial area or something else. And
I
just
agree.
like Jim says, each department out here is trying to be as efficient as possible. And yes, we've had an uptick in some expansions in our industrial area, and there might be a couple other things out there, but I think in the long term, I mean, obviously, economic development's a strong department that we need. In years past, if you look, just like Jim said, in years past, there was one person, then we brought an intern and part-time, you know, and I just feel that at least we should wait until the budget process instead of doing it midstream, you know? And again, I still feel the same way as I did the last time we talked about it, that I disagree with this, and I think we need to take a step back and really analyze, I mean, building department, I mean, he needs help. I mean, there's so many other departments, and I don't think we're doing our due diligence to, you know, until we really look at everything. And yes, the JED is another funding source, that you're taking somebody's income tax out in the township to improve our economic status here within the city boundaries. And I think, and Jim, you brought it up last time, a lot of the departments, everybody makes an impact on this community. Whether it's picking up sanitation, whether it's keeping the streets right, whether it's proper signage, or, you know, being there for businesses that need our attention. I mean, it's just basic services. Everybody plays a role, and part of that is, I think, helps retain and entice new development. You know, they can work with the county economic development, which they've done in the past. I mean, Kimberly said last time she needs additional tools, and she has a lot of tools in the belt, and there's a county economic development partner that she teams up with that has additional personnel that they work together to bring in for even the Carlisle Break and Friction expansion. They work together with the county to bring that in. And to me, I just the midstream of trying to get another full-time in here when we're, you know, really tight on our funds and you can't count on additional revenue from the taxpayer. I just think we need to wait.
But that's not fair.
Why isn't it fair?
Because you don't know what you're talking about. We didn't
Excuse
use the
me, sir?
county, we didn't use the
You
county
don't
staff.
disrespect me like that. I'm
I'm
not
not.
disrespecting anybody here. I'm trying to tell
No,
you
all
how
right,
I feel.
You talk about an uptick. An uptick isn't 208% increase, Mark. That's not an uptick. That's a significant increase. Second of all, we don't use the county economic development staff. We use the leverage they have with the Port Authority to save all of the sales tax for a corporation like a Carlisle. We use the mechanisms that they
You
have
guys work
that we
together, don't you, sir? You work together.
We don't
That's what
use
I'm
their
saying.
staff.
I didn't say,
We don't- you
guys
did say their
You work
staff.
together with their staff for these projects.
We can't use their staff to do the city things. We can use the mechanisms the county has to benefit our businesses. That's a difference. You can't displace their staff for our staff.
You know, so we're up here to make decisions. We're elected individually to make decisions and try to figure out what's right for this community. So whether we agree or disagree, it is what it is. And to me, I think we need to wait until the budget process to see what we can afford and what we can't afford.
I have a question about the JED funds. A portion of it goes to economic development, but the lion's share goes to the general
No,
fund.
I think 40% goes to the general fund, or the income tax funds, and not the general fund. I think it's all the income tax spread out, and 60%, if I'm correct, goes back to,
First, the 20% that we have to take for the 108 fund comes out first.
Right.
Then of the rest, I think it's 60/40, and you're right, it's not just general fund. Part goes to that economic development, and the rest is distributed as the income tax is distributed.
Okay, all right. So it's, all of the JED money does not go to the economic development department?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. The entire city benefits from those dollars, correct?
yes.
Okay, so we've brought in, I don't know how many millions of extra dollars of salaries that are taxed at 1.25%, one of the lowest, if not the lowest in the state. All right, and one of the things that we collectively have tried to do over the years is keep that tax rate low so that individuals are not hit, but to spread the number of individuals to contribute to our coffers so we can continue to do the things we're doing. Kimberly is doing nothing more than adding to that vehicle that is driving the total income coming into the city. The extra $15,000 or something like that that we would be spending, and if the number's off, please correct me, I think is a good investment for the millions of dollars that we've been bringing in terms of extra income salaries, wages, what have you, that we can use that, okay, Kimberly gets a portion of it, then the rest of the city gets it to spread, gets it proportionately. And with those funds, then the department heads can say, okay, I've got this much money, I've got this much work, I need this many people. They can make their requests too. But if we don't give Kimberly the assistance she needs to continue this going with the amount of economic growth that has been going on in this city, as the mayor said, 200 and some odd $1 million worth of business coming into the city, we could upset that apple cart to the point where we're getting nothing, and we are doing what we don't want to do, raising taxes or cutting people. I think that this is a good thing at this time, and I do believe we need to vote yes on this.
Well, I think in my opinion, I think what's happened here is we've gotten so comfortable in working so well as a elected body with not only the CEO of the city, but all the department heads. I don't know whether there's a lot of areas other than an area that works together so well that can actually call the service director or call the economic developer. They usually have to go, and if we remember correctly with the previous administration, it actually got to the point that that mayor said, please don't contact our department heads. If you've got a question or a problem with the budget or with the department, call me and I will make the corrections if I can. In saying that, I feel as an elected official, my job is not that we should never question the CEO or never have a question for a department head. My job as a legislator is to help guide the funds when they're requested. The biggest thing for us is when somebody makes a request, is there funds there? Is there a way that we can make the request work through either redoing the formulas on the income tax? We come up several years ago with a way of using carry forward. Eloquently, as John said, the departments could, save money, not maybe they needed a new computer on a request for the second year out in the budget, and when they get to that point, they realize that their computer that they're using is fine, so they can save that money and that's used for the carry forward. In this particular request, the money is not new money. It's, and I agree with you 100%. It's taxpayer money, whether it's a benefit, because Montville's benefiting from the JED situation because they couldn't have an income tax levy to their citizens without the JED. We are benefiting because we're working together with another government entity. My job, what I feel my job is not so much to dictate what Kimberly does or doesn't do, or Nino, or any other department head. I depend on the CEO of the city, the mayor of the city, to do all the legwork. Now, he's got a lot of tools in his box. He can use the law director, he can use the finance director, and when they come to us, me as a legislator has got to sit there and say, okay, the CEO of the city says this is worthwhile and this is the reasons why. Is there new money that we have to find as legislators throughout the budget? No. Do we agree all the time that maybe the JED money could be used for something else? When it was first set up, that portion went to economic development because we all felt at that time that that was really important. We could change that, but right now, those funds are there. They've shown that there's a need, and yes, okay, it is. I mean, and I say this respectfully to everybody here. Normally, when we add new things, it's done during the budget process. This is not the exact budget process now, but there is a need there. I feel that it was presented properly. It's not my discussion of who she hires or what position it is. It's my authority is to say, okay, is there funds there? Is the request legitimate? Well, I believe it is. Not only me personally, but the CEO of the city, the one that we, as voters, the majority of voters chose this man to be the CEO of the city. He's done his due diligence, and not just Kimberly's offer, but the police chief's offer, Nino's offer, I mean, the fire chief's offer. And I'm not saying that we've always had this in the past, but we've been fortunate now through, is this your third term, sir?
Yes, sir.
Through 2.5 terms, to be able to sit there and say, as a council member, I trust what he says. And I trust that he, among all of us, is not going to misspend funds if it's not needed. And I feel sometimes, me included, that I question things that maybe it isn't my responsibility to be questioned. Yes, we are in charge of okaying finances, but when the finances are there, you have to sit there and ask yourself, are we denying this request on a personal level? Or are we denying this request because there's no funds there? And I've heard that every department in the city needs more help. And I agree. Nino's overworked, the building inspector's overworked, the fire chief's overworked, the police chief's overworked. But they haven't come to us. And when they have come to us, we just went through a reorganization of the Parks Department.
So Denny, we're coming.
No, he didn't mean that. He didn't mean it.
I'm not saying that you have every right in the world to come to us and request that, but I don't think you're gonna make that, you may, because it's a different situation. There's not another department head in the city that's gonna come to council and during the budget process and ask for a request that the mayor hasn't already approved and knows where the funds should be coming from. So, not that we don't have a right to question why, or is that truck being bought locally, or is, there's a lot of questions we can ask, but I think the mayor has went above and beyond explaining why this request is not just important for Kimberly, who has done a good a job as any other department head in the city, but the department itself needs these funds because to continue to grow in the manner that we have, I don't think anybody's expectations, and we've just scratched the surface. With the new TIF programs that's going to be involved, this economic development is going to tax every department with their ability. So I think that but I don't feel that the mayor will let anything go through without him doing his, and we may not always have the beauty of this working, but I think sometimes as a council, as a body, as individuals, not as a body, but as individuals, we overstep our boundaries. So therefore, I do agree with what you're saying, and it's not, I could think Kimberly's the best thing since sliced bread, or I could think that I really don't care for her. You've made your point. She has sold it to you. You've done your work, and therefore, I will support it. Thank you.
I gotta say one thing before we end. This is not about like or dislike or trust. It's not about, do I trust the mayor? I do. I hope he trusts me. But it is also the reason I think that we work so well is because we can disagree. We will on occasion disagree. The mayor can send a gold-plated request in here, and someone might look at it and go, you know what, I just don't, I'm not comfortable with this, I'm not sure about this, I don't know that I agree with it, but that doesn't dig into trust. I think why we have worked so well together is we have a confidence. And, if Mark has a disagreement, Mark looks differently at the parking deck, Mark and I went ahead and worked on the crosswalk. It isn't about this kind of a schism, but I also think it is our responsibility, because I have said many times, we get from the administration that you couldn't operate this way without a great deal of trust, because almost, 99% of the time, we look with confidence that we are getting legitimate information that we can be comfortable with and say, okay, I agree with that. But that doesn't mean sometime you won't agree with it. And it is okay, because, we are all independently elected, and council for council holds the purse strings, I mean, is what we really hold. And because we have this good relationship, we have an administration that is so professional that we can be confident when they bring something in. You know, but if somebody says, I think I would prefer to deal with this in a budget time, which is, when's the first budget meeting?
I think pretty soon, a couple weeks.
I think it's in a couple of weeks. You know, that's, you know, maybe not a reason to put the hammer down on somebody for just thinking that, because that would be, why I might think that. This has nothing to do, though, with interpersonal relationship or confidence in the administration, to me anyway, just speaking for myself.
Well, we voted on this last time, so the suspense will be there until the council meeting when it's voted again, I guess. I don't know. Unless a majority of council here wants to table it until the budget meetings. I don't know if we have enough. You want to table it?
I'm ready to go with it.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I was okay, I mean, I understood it was 5-2, so.
I'll go with it.
Okay,
That's
so
where we are.
everybody's suspense, wait till council meeting.
Let me offer one more thing.
Okay.
I was directed to create it as an exempt position.
Mhm.
If the group is much happier leaving it the way it was originally,
No, we don't want civil service.
yeah, but you can't have it both ways.
I know.
See,
I'm just asking, I know,
Yeah.
but that would be the
Because we
worst.
can make it a non.
Because I'd be against it if it was civil service. I mean, I don't think that's appropriate for this position, because I don't want to create a position that you can't get rid
I
of.
just,
I agree.
I want everybody to understand,
very
because
bad.
I can't do it both ways.
I know. No,
I
you
mean,
did.
That was the
right.
name change, that was the requirement.
Well, I brought it back because of the big, the name
No,
change.
I understand, no, I
Okay.
understand.
All right, well, let's, everybody will just move on to council with that, and then you can vote the way you'd like to vote on council for. Okay, 1863, amending codified ordinance 14101, Board of Control. Mayor, we talked about this at the Board of Control. You want me to talk about it? You want to talk about it?
I didn't know if we have to vote to accept this new job description.
No, I don't
You're
think we
gonna
have to
do it
vote for it,
upstairs.
because the question that came back, I think my understanding is, we voted for the position, and it's a name, I brought it back because of the change.
Right.
People were very concerned about making it assistant, and it seems like we're all about the same, so we're gonna move it on to council. I don't think we have to vote for it again.
No, but you're going to vote your final vote at council.
Right, that's right. So, Board of Control change.
Sorry. So, the question came up with changing the lower threshold for Board of Control from $1,000 to $1,500. The last time it was changed was in 1999. That was when we went from 500 to 1,000. The reason that we made that change was what you could purchase for 1,000 versus 500 had changed quite a bit over the years. And Keith found this calculator here on the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And what it lets you do is actually show what $1,000 bought in April of 1999 when the ordinance was changed to what that would be in purchasing power today, which turns out it's $14.98 and 14 cents. John and I discussed this, as did a number of the department heads, and the decision was not to raise the upper threshold of 15,000, to keep that the same. And we're simply asking to raise the 1,000 level to 1,500 so that we can process things a little bit more quickly administratively, and it would also be beneficial for Keith and them to be able to handle things from 0 to 14,999 without waiting on Board of Control to convene.
Questions on that? Everything that's okay?
Makes sense to me.
Yep. I make a motion then to change the Board of Control approval of expenditures from 1,000 to 1,500.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 18064, purchase of a 2018 Ford F-150 truck for the fire department. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a request for F-150 4x4 crew cab. It's going to replace my Expedition that I drive. It's an 08. It's severe rusting. Both rocker panels are gone, and back hatch is rusting through. Mechanics looked at it. He has brake issues and all this undercarriage type rust. We get better use. We're putting a cap on it so we can still carry equipment, all people. That's a big use for the department. We also have some trailers we tow. We did research it. Statewide Ford had a state bid in Montrose, and actually Liberty Ford still beat theirs by over $1,500 for the package. We're asking an emergency clause because they're anticipating an increase sometime in April.
And Chief, the reason for the pickup truck versus the Expedition?
Well, to start with, it's just going to be more useful for us now, but the Expeditions, they're starting at $41,000 now on state bid. So that kind of.
Are you gonna, can you get the bottom sprayed, or we don't do that? With-
Yes, it's getting undercoated, has a bed liner sprayed in it, plus 2 years ago, we purchased an undercarriage washer, so at least every 2 weeks during the winter months,
Right.
all of our trucks go through it.
Good thing.
Again, there's a running board on it, it's bolted to the frame before and after the wheels. That's in solid shape, and everything underneath it's rotted out.
Now, Mike Wright's not gonna buy this vehicle, because he likes to buy all the vehicles, or Keith likes to buy these vehicles, I guess, too. So, we'll see. Maybe you like this one, I don't know.
I'm happy with one old junk.
Okay, okay, just checking. Any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 18065 expenditure of $15,000 for a fire hose for the new pumper.
Thank you. This is the truck that was approved in the fall of 16. It's actually getting delivered Wednesday afternoon. Again, historically, we've always passed on our nozzles and everything, and a lot of it's, actually Board of Control approved some nozzles for me, but it's all 1980s vintage hose. I don't think most of it will pass this spring's hose test when we do it. And it's also, it's more of an industrial pumper, so it's going to be carrying 2,000 foot of hose, which puts a, extra hose, you usually only carry 1,000 foot. And actually, this is the fourth pumper I've purchased here, plus the 2 from Mondo. It's the first time we've had to ask for hose. We've turned it, handed it down from one truck to another for the last 10 years now.
Any other questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 18066 capital bill request for 19 and 20. Kimberly.
Thank you, Mr. President. The state legislature had reached out to the city at the end of November 2017, requesting projects be submitted for capital bill funding for the next cycle. We originally had not submitted anything due to getting the $1 million grant for the historic district parking facility, and then prior to the capital bill being introduced into the House and Senate, the mayor and myself were receiving calls from Senate President Larry Obhoff's office requesting us to submit projects for consideration. So we had met with some of the department heads on potential projects for consideration and came up with the attached list, and as a result of that, Senator Obhoff had put $250,000 into the capital bill under the project title Medina Town Square Improvements. So in meeting with the department heads, the projects that we came up with, the first one was for the Firehouse Museum. It does have historical and cultural interests. This was a project in conversation with Nino on HVAC, remodeling the community room and renovating the restrooms in the Fire Engine House Museum. Had a phone call with Chris Bruner at Ohio Facility Construction Commission on Thursday, and he indicated that that would be a project that would be eligible for this funding. We'd also put in for the gazebo in the town square. This is one of Jansen's projects. Tuck pointing for the bandstand and complete restoration of the gazebo. Tuck pointing does not qualify. Restoration could qualify if it's construction, not repair, so that project is generally all repair and would not qualify. However, in a subsequent conversation with Jansen, he's also interested in widening the concrete pad, I guess, if you will, that would wrap around the gazebo in the front of the gazebo. So went back and asked about that. They said that's all construction, that would qualify, so he's gonna take that to Uptown Park Committee, Advisory Committee. We don't have a budget on that one yet.
Is there a way to widen the sidewalks, or no? That's probably too much removal of the,
That would be more expensive than this project because of all the irrigation heads that would need to be moved and lines relocated.
see, that seems to be a big issue.
So that's something I think they're gonna talk about next week. The third project is in Bicentennial Park. This is also Jansen's project that would deal with landscape lighting and decorative light poles. All of that does qualify. So that they give us a green light on that one. And then the Historic District crosswalk safety improvements. That was working with Patrick Patton on that one. He had mentioned the possibility of installing flashing lights at the 4 mid-block crosswalks in the historic district. Right now, that's a maybe. They are researching that further. In light of the discussion for streets and sidewalk, I think that we should go back and maybe expand the scope of that. Jansen was talking about, like, if there was a way to delineate those crosswalks with, I don't know if it's stamped concrete or painting it or something to make it more visible. I think we should go back and maybe add that to our request. The last project was our service garage. That was Nino's for facade restoration, roof replacement. They said no to that. I was trying to figure out another way to make that work, and I don't think that's going to happen. One of the things that we did talk about is the timing of these projects. That was the subsequent page that I gave to you. If we want to try to start these projects as soon as the controlling board meets and we get the signed cooperative use agreement from the state, we would need to have our application into the Ohio Facility Construction Commission by April 12th. So we want to put all these projects under one application, but a separate page with the scope, schedule, budget, and design. And we would also need the letter from Keith showing where the local match is coming from. Keep in mind that when we put this request in, we did like a 50-50, but again, talking to Chris Bruner, the state can pick up 2/3, we can pick up 1/3, and matching, it could be matching funds or it could be in-kind work. So for example, say the project that Jansen wants to do with the widening of the concrete around the gazebo. If he does the tuck pointing and that work on his own, we can use that as a match. So it doesn't have to be like physical dollars. So there's a little more flexibility with that. If we were able to submit by, April 12th, the Facility Construction Commission, they have that 30 to 60-day review period. That's where they review projects for eligibility. They do all their front-end due diligence, review supportive culture, arts, and that kind of thing, and then they prepare the recommendation for the commission. Cooperative use agreements would be sent early in June. That's where Mr. Huber would have to review that. But the state controlling board meets on July 9th and July 23rd, and in order to get on those July 9th agenda, the commission has to submit everything on our projects by early June. Once the state controlling board meets and approves the release of the funding, then the commission can approve the projects in July and send us the fully executed grant agreement, and then we could start those projects following that. So if council is in agreement in submitting this application on April 12th, we would need the emergency clause, which originally I had not requested that because at the time when I submitted this, I didn't have all the subsequent information from the Facility Construction Commission because they're swamped with calls, so he just called me back on Thursday, so that's all that I have.
Thoughts? Questions?
I'm good.
Questions, thoughts? No?
No, I'm good.
Good, good, good.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1867, bids for the 2018 concrete street repair program. Mr. Patton.
Thank you. This is our annual project. This is a miscellaneous street repair throughout all of the city. We're asking this year for the same amount we had last year, which is $375,000 to do these repairs. 25 of that will be coming from the water fund to repair places where concrete was removed, to repair water breaks.
Questions?
One question, Pat, do you have that list finalized yet? Which ones you
We will
doing?
have that later this week.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second?
Other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1868, bids for the 2018 concrete pavement joint sealing.
This is another annual project, and as with last year, we're asking for $75,000. I always use the analogy, this is like changing the oil in your car. The pavement maintenance procedure, and it extends the life of our concrete pavements for the
Questions?
Move to approve?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1869 aesthetic enhancements for the South Elmwood Bridge.
Thank you. A while back, when we were talking about South Elmwood Bridge, we were asked to look at maybe trying to do some aesthetic enhancements. Kind of difficult, this bridge is only a 20-foot span between Smith Road and the railroad tracks. It's not a long bridge, so there's not a lot of opportunity there. The two things we did discuss with our consultant was using concrete liners to do a stamped concrete finish on the outside of the parapet walls. Parapet walls are the walls on the outside of the structure. That can be done relatively cheaply. I was talking to them, we're just looking at doing those walls that are above the actual structure itself, so because below that you really can't see it unless you crawl underneath the bridge. This will be kind of visible. Their guess is that doing this would add $3,000 to $5,000 to the cost of the project, if that. He said we might not even see that much with such a small area. So if we're interested in that, I guess we have to decide what kind of pattern we like.
Well, I guess the question is, looking at this drawing, is that how it would look?
Yeah, from the outside.
What about the middle? That looks kind of, I mean, that may look worse.
Well, we don't have to do anything. Like I said, in fact, our consultant recommends we don't do anything. He thinks it's such a small stretch, anything we do will kind of look busy or.
Well, I guess the question is, if it looks like this on this drawing, I guess I don't like it, but that's just me.
What are you looking at, John?
This drawing right here?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
But
What do you mean the middle? What do
Well,
you mean
between the
middle?
The two stamps.
Between the two stamps.
Yeah, I mean, I see that.
And that- I mean, that kind of looks like somebody couldn't have enough money to finish it.
Or you have to have the regular.
What?
It looks like they didn't have enough money to do the whole
That's
thing.
where a pilaster is. I don't know.
John, I think your question is, could you do the whole
Right.
wall versus, yeah, that's what I just asked him.
Yeah, I don't know that you can, because that's where there's a structural element there.
All right, because that looks, I mean, to me, I mean, that's just me. It looks kind of like, well, you didn't have enough to do the whole thing, just do a couple of patches.
Yeah.
Unless you use the deep rib one, because you got your pilaster and all that going that way. That'd be the only one that might look.
It makes it look like it looks.
It's just a drawing, though. I mean, we don't really have a, I mean, the drawing maybe isn't really a great depiction of what a finished product would look like. I mean, if I was gonna put in a kitchen, I might not choose my cupboards by you doing a drawing. No offense. Because I agree with you.
Well, if you want, if you got some better
99% of the
pictures,
time.
maybe. I mean, I don't know, I can't.
I
make a
think it's
decision.
nice to work on a plan. We talked about, I don't know, Patrick, it seemed like years ago we were talking about this bridge.
Yeah, this has been around for a couple of years.
About trying to upgrade the designs on the bridges, because a lot of communities do have, they do something special to bridges that offsets them aesthetically, and it does add to the,
Well, I agree with you, but
The appearance.
this is not doing it for me.
Did I read that we were, if we decided to go ahead with this, that they would price it out with and without this so that we
We
can
can
make a
do that,
determination?
yeah, we can do, what
Can we
we
get
call it
pictures?
an ad alternate, where we do the base, which would just be plain, and then an ad alternate bid, they would tell us the cost to increase.
And can we get pictures from them like
Can we
they did
sh-
on other bridges?
Yeah, maybe some of the other work that they've done that might have some of these stamps in there, so we can truly have an idea of what it will look like when it's
Yeah.
completed.
Sure.
All right,
am I missing
yeah.
stuff, or is there light?
I listed a website in there that you might help, but there's literally dozens, if not hundreds of different patterns, so
Well, I don't care about the pattern, I want to see what it looks like on our bridge, what our span is, because this right here, if you drew this, I mean, it doesn't,
Patrick, is there lighting then included in this? Is that?
Well, that's our second point here. There is not, we can add it. That would, again, be an upcharge. I don't believe we're gonna be permitted by the railroad to put lights on the west side, because they're gonna interfere with the site, your vision to see the gates and flashers, the railroad crossing gate
Right.
is there. And putting a light, even, we thought maybe if we just pulled it away from that gate, not go all the way to the corner, but there is an obstruction there, and that's a safety issue, and the railroad's just not gonna allow that without an objection. So
But we could have
put it
lights on the other side.
But it kinda looks imbalanced there, I think.
But wasn't one option to put two of them just midway through instead of the corners?
Well, that was what we were hoping, but the railroad has expressed their
They don't like that either.
concern about
Okay.
that, yeah. And I don't know that they
Save
can
some
make
money.
us do it, but if they say that's a safety issue.
They're on the track, I mean, the train's on the track.
Pat, is there gonna be any kind of handrail on top of this?
There will be, yeah,
Kind of like over on South Broadway?
correct, yeah.
And Pat, they are able to design it where there's more room for pedestrians to cross?
Yes, yeah, this will all be, all ADA compliant. It's not now. There'll be a wider sidewalk out there.
Is it sidewalk on both sides?
It's only about.
It's just gonna be, yeah, I mean, is it gonna be on both sides?
And then there's steps to go down. Yeah.
Is it sidewalk on both sides, Pat, or just one side?
Just on the east side.
East side.
Okay.
All right, I guess we'll hold this until we get more information.
Okay.
Is there a deadline, is there
Well, I
a
think there's
deadline approaching, or?
At least show
Ah,
us
The
prices.
sooner we can figure it out, the sooner we can bid it.
Okay.
What does the consultant say about,
We have
you said
nothing.
he recommended not going with the
What are we
stamp
gonna
pad,
go
or what did
for?
he say about the lights?
That was their comment on both. He said just because of 20-foot span, it's just not enough, and anything you do is
And
going to
alternate
be
would be,
enforced
because we
and
didn't pick
cluttered.
the one we wanted.
That was his opinion.
So do you need something from us now? Mark is saying you need something for an ad alternate now, but we don't even know what
Didn't
that
you talk
alternate would
about-
be.
Getting pricing for an ad alternate or just doing?
Well, we'd have to go, to get the, that's part of the bid process. We could do that, go through and get an actual cost for whatever enhancements you want.
We don't know the enhancements, so can you get the cost for all of them?
We could. Then we bring it back to finance if you want.
I guess, I mean, you can price them all out until we can see what it looks like.
Okay, well, then we'll go ahead and finish with the bid process. We'll end up with three numbers, the base bid, and then an alternate for the concrete stamping, and an alternate for the one light, is that what we're saying?
I don't know what we're saying. Google a couple lights. See what it is.
If you can't put a light on the west side,
Yeah,
then
we'd have
the
to-
lights don't make sense at all.
I don't think that would look bad, having them on one side.
That would be where the
I don't know, why would that look
sidewalk
bad?
is anyhow.
Price it out, then we can say no.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the way you do it. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. 1870, amendment number 10 to Delta Airport Consultants. This is you again, Pat.
This is for the recently awarded north-south taxiway project. This is Delta's, as they've done in the past, once the project is awarded, part of their grant we get with the state is for their construction services.
I'm just
City's
gonna ask if the
responsible.
council table this issue so that we could meet with Steve to maybe discuss paying them by the hour.
Okay, tabled. You okay with that, Pat? 'Cause you're-
I would just get to that. Regular meeting.
1871, release and discharge of Banana Shopping Center easement.
This one, we were contacted by the shopping center a number of years ago. They granted the city an easement when we did our old traffic signal project, which was, I think, '06 or '07. At the time, that was again an ODOT project, so we had to go through the whole appraisal process and whatnot. I think the appraisal came out at $4,900. They donated that to us, so we didn't actually pay for the easement. But there is an existing easement now. With the new ODOT project, and you probably know, the light that was right next to Walgreens, that entrance has moved to the north. So the easement we had before was for pavement loops on their property. Those no longer apply, we don't need them. They're asking us to release that easement, so kind of clean up their.
Do we need any other easements from them?
Do we need any other easements from them? Well, ODOT, prior to the project, actually bought right-of-way from the shopping center for that new entrance.
Oh, okay. Questions?
To approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1872, this came from Mark, amending section 50507 on cruelty to companion animals.
Yeah, I've asked you to move this to special legislation. If this is in reference to tethering companion animals, dogs in particular, and I'm going to use a definition, just so you guys know what a tether is, from actually the City of Brunswick's ordinance they have in place. But basically, it's included but not limited to a chain, leash, cable, or tie out to a stationary point of object, trolley, or run used to contain or restrain a dog. I had a resident bring this to my attention, concerns about specifically in Ward 3, where people have tied up dogs, left them out overnight, unsupervised, in areas where it could be potentially harm to the animal. So I asked to move this to special legislation. There's some other points that were brought up that I'm going to fine tune this a little bit, maybe get a little more detailed. But that list that's provided just gives you a couple examples, though it might be confusing, a couple examples of what we're trying to, or what I'm trying to get at to help protect the little critters, pets that people have in our community.
Okay. So that would be moved, Kathy. Gotcha, okay. 1874, resolution of support for the fire district feasibility study. Okay.
So we've asked the state auditor to perform a feasibility study on what they're basically going to look at is the number of fire stations, the number of fire apparatus, the number of fire personnel, in hopes of giving us an opinion or a variety of opinions on a fire district and different methods, both with keeping it the way it is now with limited staffing and backfilling with part-time versus what it would come to go to full-time fire only, what it would come to go to full-time with fire and EMS. And to do that, to have Montville Townships in support of this, Medina Townships in support of this, they need a resolution of support from each of the entities saying they're in agreement. Now, I'll just share with you, because I was shocked, and you likely will be as well. Even though we passed this resolution in support of it, their attorneys tell them they still have to give everybody 60 days to make sure they're not going to withdraw or pull back. I said, well, what's the point of the the resolution of support then? Yeah. Either we support it, and she said, yeah, she tried that same thing, and they just simply won't. They had, because I think whatever their guidelines are, maybe it's in ORC or something, that they have to give that 60-day period. So that holds up the whole process for 60 days. But the sooner we can let them know that we're all in, we can get the process started and go from there. Montville is actually submitting the grant. They've done a number of grants through the auditor's office already, so they have a good relationship with them. So what they will need is just our resolution of support to send with them.
You guys all in?
Yeah, I mean, from the fire district meeting, I sit on there representing council, and I feel pretty good that there's already been enough collaboration with the local entities. Also, there's a lot of data that's already been put in place that I know we're going to compete against some others in the state of Ohio, but I think just the factors that we already have going, I feel pretty good about hopefully getting a shot here with the auditor's office.
Yep.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, anything else before we recess into executive session? Yes, right. Okay.
And it's for personnel.
Yes, sir.
And Chief Kenny, Craig Huber.
And
Joe. Great. I'll make a motion to go into executive session at 6:59 PM for the purpose to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, or promotion, demotion, or compensation of public employee or official to include the mayor, the police chief, and the law director.
Second?
Clerk, please call the roll.
Lamb?
Yes.
Parnell? Yes. Shields?
Yes.
Point?
Yes.
Gibson? Rose?
Yes.
Wilson?
We'll be recessing into executive session to discuss personnel matters. Coming back into finance, not taking any action on what we discussed in executive session, and adjourning from that and going to council. We're in recess.